What's up, fight fans? You're watching Octagon Control MMA. I'm Dan. Today we're going to be talking about a featured prelim for UFC 256. We've got Cub Swanson versus Daniel Pineda. Alright, first thing, we're going to start off by talking about Cub Swanson. Alright, first thing I want to say, I'm sure we've all seen recently that the UFC has been talking about making cuts. And it looks like they're going to be targeting older fighters with not great recent records. Cub Swanson's 1-4 in his last 5, so I think this is a must-win for him if he's got any interest in staying in the UFC going forward. Alright, so that brings us nicely to his most recent fight. He fought Crone Gracie. Okay, anytime the name Gracie comes up, everyone raises an eyebrow just to see what's going to happen. Obviously, it's a legendary name within the sport, going right back to the start of UFC 1 back in '93. Okay, so let's talk about how he actually did in the fight. Very well, surprisingly. Crone Gracie came into this at 5-0, 5 submission wins, 4 in the first round, 1 in the second. Very impressive record he went up against. But yeah, Swanson did very well. He kept the fight on the feet where he needed to. He's landing some very devastating body shots. He kept his hands low throughout the fight, which when you're fighting a grappler isn't necessarily a problem, but I don't think it's always the best idea. Very entertaining fight throughout though, stayed on the feet. Gracie tried to pull guard a couple of times, which you would expect from such a high level jiu-jitsu player, so that's not necessarily a shock, I would say, but Swanson did very well to stay out of it. Yeah, when he did go to the ground, he was very measured with his ground and pound. He didn't get caught in his guard, and he did very well throughout on that one. The main thing he did well in this fight though was his body shots. Devastatingly heavy body shots, just racking them up throughout the fight, and Crone Gracie did very well not to get affected by them. He did look at gassing a bit towards the end of the fight, but like I say, with how high paced it was, the different aspects, I'm not going to hold that against him too much. He got the unanimous decision win. Very impressive performance, especially against someone he wasn't expected to beat at all. I think he went in at a plus 200 underdog for this one. So overall, pretty decent performance. Yeah, not much else to say for that one. Okay, next off we'll talk about his opponent, Daniel Pineda. 27-13 and 2-no contests. And I want to start off talking about his 2-no contests. They were his most recent ones. He's had one fight in the UFC, and before that he's had 2-no contests. He won both of those fights, but they were overturned to no contest through drug failures, which I assume he's over with now. They were outside of the UFC, so he's got into the UFC. Obviously now he's on the wagon with USADA, so I assume he's playing it a bit more honest at this point. Right, so his last fight was against Herbert Burns, younger brother of Gilbert Burns, who's going to be fighting for the welterweight strap soon. Alright, from the off though, it was very clear that Burns wanted to play jiu-jitsu. He didn't want a MMA fight, he wanted a grappling match, and this really helped out Pineda. Because Pineda, although he's not necessarily a jiu-jitsu player, 18 submission wins out of 27, 9 KOs. He's never actually gone to a decision where he's won, which I was quite surprised by when I looked that up. So that's interesting. But yeah, he got on top of Burns, which you'd think is where Burns wanted him. But he was able to neutralise any sort of submission threats from the bottom off of Burns. Heavy ground and pound, lots of good dicing elbows, very dominant on the top. That is pretty much the whole of the first round. I could have easily given that a 10-8. Second round, much of the same. Burns did a little bit better. He took the back at one point, and I thought that Pineda was in some trouble. But then Pineda comes off, swings it round, gets the mount. He has a weird sort of side control, nearly a crucifix, but not quite. And then elbows to the face finished him off. So that was very impressive performance as well, especially against a big up-and-comer like Herbert Burns, and a great way to mark his return to the UFC with a second round knockout win. Alright, quick side by side of the fighters. are we going to go through the attributes that I like to assign to this. So we've got striking, grappling, fight IQ, chin and gas tank. First off, I'm going to give the striking to Cub Swanson. I just feel like he's got the advantage on the feet, especially what he showed his last fight with the big body shots he was landing. He looks very comfortable on the feet. Not that he's bad on the ground at all, but I think he's going to want to keep this fight standing. That's where he's got the best opportunity of winning. Grappling, mainly based on the last fight against Herbert Burns, I'm going to have to give this one to Pineda. Herbert Burns is a top level jiu-jitsu player, competed in a lot of grappling tournaments, done very well, and he completely neutralised his ground game, was able to assert his top position, great ground and pound, kept dominant position throughout, passing whenever he wanted really. So that's a big one for Pineda in my opinion. Fight IQ, I'm going to give that to Swanson. I just feel like while Pineda did obviously do well in his last fight, it's a very risky move. He'd have been much better off staying on the feet. And I just feel like Swanson, it would have been very tempting in the Gracie fight to just dive into his guard, because he could have probably finished it once or twice. But he knew to stay on his feet. He kept the fight where he wanted it, and then he was more dominant obviously that way. Strong unanimous decision win. Okay, next up, chin. I'm just going to go again for Swanson on this one. You've seen the wars he's been in over the years. I mean, no names come off the top of my head right now, but if I looked back, I mean, how many fight of the nights he's got, performance of the nights, very high level, very entertaining striker. Okay, last one, gas tank. I'm just gonna give this to Pineda purely because Swanson is getting older. Pineda's old as well. I mean, Swanson's 37, Pineda's 35, but they both getting on. But Pineda just looks more healthy. He looks like he's got it in him to go the full 15 a bit better. Not to say Swanson doesn't, but I think when it gets to the third round, if it does get that far, that Pineda will have a slight advantage there. But I don't think there's a great deal in it. If I was giving it a number thing, I'd give Pineda 8 and Swanson 7, something like that. So nothing too outrageous difference there. Right, so now who do I think's going to win? I am going to go for Cub Swanson at this one. Plus 125 he is for the win. Plus 450 for the stoppage and plus 240 on the decision. Pineda, for what it's worth, 4-6 on the win, minus 150. 6-4 on the stoppage, plus 150. And decision 10-3, plus 330. But I'm just going for a straight out Cub Swanson win. 5-4, plus 125. I think that's pretty safe money. But I'm confident on Cub Swanson. I think that's what I'm going to go for with this one. Alright, so that rounds up the prelims. I've skipped a few fights this week on the prelims just because I don't think they're particularly interesting. When I do my full card breakdown on Saturday, I will obviously include them and just give some brief notes on them, what I think, but I think a full video and a couple of them is just a bit excessive. So that's going to be all for today. You've been watching Octagon Control MMA. I've been Dan. Hope everyone has a great day and we'll see you tomorrow.